Okay, so you're getting ready for that big trip, getting all excited. But before you pack your bags, there's something we got to talk about.
Mhm.
Something that could honestly save you a ton of hassle and money.
Oh, yeah?
Travel insurance.
Travel
Yeah,
insurance.
I know. Not exactly the most thrilling part of trip planning.
Right.
But trust me, this deep dive might change your perspective a bit.
I'm all ears.
So, travel insurance. It's basically a safety net for all those unexpected things that can, well, pop up during a trip. You know, things like medical emergencies, trip cancellations, lost luggage, the stuff you hope never happens, but
But it can, and it does.
exactly. And when it does, it can really throw a wrench in your plans, not to mention your wallet.
It's interesting, people often see travel insurance as just like a way to avoid financial disaster,
Mm.
right? But there's a whole other side to it.
Ooh, tell me more.
Think of it as almost like a secret weapon for embracing the unexpected and traveling with a confidence that honestly most people don't even realize is possible.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. So it's not just about like avoiding those huge medical bills if you get sick in, I don't know, Thailand or something.
And exactly, I mean, that's a big part of it for sure.
Yeah.
But how often do you find yourself holding back, you know, from really experiencing something new?
Oh, all the time.
Because there's that little voice in your head. What if something goes wrong?
Yeah. That voice can be a real buzzkill.
But imagine if you had this like extra layer of security, knowing that if something did happen, you'd have support. Wouldn't that free you up to take more risks, be more spontaneous, really experience everything without constantly looking over your shoulder?
Wow, yeah. Never thought about it that way. I've always been so focused on like, what if something bad happens, that I never thought about how insurance could actually help me worry less about those what ifs.
That's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We're going to look at not just how travel insurance protects you financially, but how it can change your whole travel mindset.
Okay, you've sold me on the idea. But let's get practical for a second. What exactly does travel insurance cover? I mean, I know the basics, like medical emergencies, lost luggage, but is there more to it?
Absolutely. Those are, of course, the big ones, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine needing emergency surgery in a foreign country.
Ooh, that's scary.
Right. Our source material actually mentions this guy, Mr. Chinedu. He needed an appendectomy in the UK, ended up with a hospital bill of £5,000.
Yikes. I've heard horror stories about medical evacuation costs too, tens of thousands of dollars to get flown back home.
Exactly. That kind of expense could wipe out anyone's savings. But having a good travel insurance plan, it's like a shield, protecting you from those potentially devastating costs.
So it's not just covering the actual medical bills, but also those extra expenses, like getting you back home if you need to.
Right.
Okay, that's huge. What about like trip cancellations or delays? Does travel insurance cover that too?
Definitely. You book flights, hotels, maybe tours, all non-refundable, then boom, natural disaster, family emergency, even just a missed connection, everything's thrown off.
Been there.
Travel insurance can reimburse you for those non-refundable expenses. Saves you a major financial headache.
So like a backup plan for when life throws you a curveball. What about those less dramatic situations, like lost luggage? Is that really worth filing an insurance claim for?
Depends on the situation. Think about what you pack in that check bag, though. Clothes, toiletries, maybe electronics.
Oh yeah, good point.
Replacing all that can add up, especially on a longer trip. Travel insurance can help cover those costs, so you're not stuck without the essentials.
Right, hadn't even considered the replacement costs. So we've talked medical emergencies, trip interruptions, lost luggage. Is there anything else that's typically included?
Often, there are some extra benefits, depending on the specific plan. Things like coverage for personal liability, legal expenses, or even repatriation. Something really serious happens and you need to be transported back home.
Wow, so there's a lot to it. But with all those options, choosing the right plan sounds a little overwhelming.
It can be, for sure. That's why it's so important to understand how travel insurance policies actually work.
Makes sense.
And that's exactly what we're going to look at next. We'll break down those insurance terms, help you figure out what to look for in a policy, and ultimately help you make the best choice for your trip.
Okay, I'm ready to dive in. Let's do it. Okay, so we know travel insurance is important, like a trusty sidekick for adventurers. But how do we even begin to choose the right plan? There are so many options. It's like a jungle of fine print and insurance jargon out there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It can definitely feel overwhelming. But think of it like this. Choosing the right travel insurance, it's kind of like packing the right gear for your trip.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right. You wouldn't bring a snowsuit to the Bahamas.
Haha. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So how do we pack the right insurance?
Well, first we got to decode some of those common insurance terms,
Mm.
like premium. Think of that as your membership fee for the insurance club.
The price you pay for the coverage.
Exactly. Then there are coverage limits. Those are kind of like the boundaries of your insurance safety net.
Okay.
They tell you the maximum amount the insurance company is going to pay for things like medical bills or lost luggage.
Makes sense.
And then you've got exclusions. Those are like the terms and conditions apply disclaimers. They tell you what's not covered by the policy.
Okay, so premium, coverage limits, exclusions. Got it.
Yeah.
But how do we actually know how much coverage we need? Should I just, like, aim for the highest limits possible just in case?
Well, not necessarily. It really depends on your trip,
Yeah.
and your risk factors. For example, if you're going on a chill beach vacation somewhere developed, you probably don't need the same level of coverage as someone, say, backpacking through the Amazon.
So it's all about assessing the risk involved in my specific trip.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the things I should be considering when I'm, like, evaluating that risk?
Yeah. Well, think about your destination, the activities you're going to be doing, your overall health. Are you going somewhere remote with limited access to healthcare? Planning on doing any, like, extreme sports?
Yeah, good point.
Do you have any pre-existing medical conditions?
Huh.
All these things can influence the type and amount of coverage you're going to need.
So there's no, like, one-size-fits-all approach to travel insurance.
Nope. It's about finding that sweet spot between cost and coverage.
Hmm.
Plan that gives you enough protection without breaking the bank.
Right.
Don't automatically go for the cheapest option, though. It might not cover everything you need,
Makes sense.
but you also don't need the most expensive plan if it has a bunch of stuff you're not going to use.
So how do we strike that balance then? Are there any specific types of coverage we should, like, prioritize?
Yeah, definitely. Medical coverage is a must, especially if you're traveling internationally. You want to plan with, like, good limits for medical expenses, emergency evacuation, repatriation. Trip cancellation and interruption coverage is important, too. Protects your investment, if you have to change or cancel your plans for some reason.
That makes sense. What about those exclusions we were talking about earlier? Are there any common ones that travelers should, like, watch out for?
Definitely. Most policies don't cover pre-existing medical conditions unless you get a special waiver or add-on.
Oh, okay.
They also might not cover things that are considered high risk, like extreme sports or certain adventure activities, unless you get, a specific adventure sports plan.
So reading the fine print is, like, super important.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be caught off guard.
Definitely not. Okay, so we talked about assessing our risk, understanding those key insurance terms, watching out for those exclusions. What other tips do you have for choosing the right plan?
Well, do your research.
Yeah.
Compare quotes from a few different insurance providers. Make sure you choose a reputable company, one with a good track record. They'll handle your claims efficiently and fairly.
So kind of like choosing a travel buddy. You want someone reliable who's got your back if things go wrong.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. A good insurance company, they'll be happy to explain things and help you find the best coverage for your trip.
This has been super helpful. It feels like we're finally starting to, like, crack the code of travel insurance. But beyond all this, like, practical stuff, I'm curious about how this all connects back to that idea of travel freedom we were talking about earlier.
Ah, that's a great point. We focused a lot on the what-ifs of travel. But let's shift our perspective a bit. Let's explore how travel insurance can actually empower us to embrace those what-ifs and unlock a whole new level of confidence when we travel.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, talking about types of coverage, key terms, how to choose the right plan. But let's talk about something a little less, tangible, the peace of mind and that sense of freedom that travel insurance can give you.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Imagine you're on that dream trip, hiking through some remote mountains, exploring a new city.
I like where this is going.
Now picture two scenarios. One, you're constantly worried about what could go wrong. Every step, you're thinking about accidents, getting sick, just things going wrong.
Yeah, not a great way to travel.
In the second scenario, you're relaxed, confident. You're free to just enjoy the experience, embrace the unexpected, because you've got that safety net.
That's a huge difference. It's like walking a tightrope with a safety net versus without one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Travel insurance is that safety net. It lets you take risks, push your boundaries without that fear of falling.
It's not just about protecting our, bank accounts, but also our travel experience.
Yeah, you can really engage with the journey. You're not held back by fear or anxiety.
Think about that guy we talked about earlier, Mr. Chenyadu. He didn't have to be stressed about those medical bills. He could just focus on getting better, knowing his insurance had it covered.
Exactly.
Makes me think about a time I was traveling in Southeast Asia, had this amazing opportunity to go scuba diving, something I'd always wanted to do. But I was so nervous about the risks.
What happened?
I totally chickened out, let fear get the better of me, and missed out. Looking back, I realized that if I'd had travel insurance, it might have given me that push to actually do it.
Ah, that's a perfect example. Travel insurance empowers us to say yes to those new adventures. Push ourselves outside our comfort zones.
It's like trading fear for freedom.
Exactly.
So it sounds like travel insurance is more than just a practical thing. It's really a mindset shift.
It is. It's about embracing the unknown, knowing you've got that backup. You're not just buying a policy, you're buying peace of mind and the freedom to enjoy your trip to the fullest.
Well said. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive today, but before we go, we want to leave you with something to think about. We've talked about all the benefits, the practical, the financial, even the emotional. But here's the question. Knowing what you know now, how would you approach your next trip differently? Would you be more willing to try something adventurous? Book that once-in-a-lifetime experience? Or just relax a bit more, knowing you're covered? Take some time to research your options, find a plan that works for you, for your trip, and then go explore.
The world is waiting. And with a little preparation, you can experience it all. Safe travels, everyone.